Hi, and welcome to The VUU. We have our regulars today. We're going to be talking about back to school, both literally and figuratively. What are the things that we want to learn or teach? And our beloved fearless leader, Reverend Meg, I guess was so excited with the topic that she has disappeared for the moment. Perhaps she decided she was going to check it all and go back to school herself. I'm Joanna Fontaine Crawford. I'm here in Austin, Texas, and let me have everyone introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. I'm Patrice Curtis, and I am in Washington, D.C.
Hi, and I'm Tom Shade. I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
And I'm Aisha Hauser, and I'm in Seattle, Washington. Oh, hi, Hank. That's Hank.
And I'm Hank, and I'm speaking to you from the First Parish Church in Milton, Massachusetts. Hooray!
So who all is in new places this year?
Hey, maybe we should say who's behind that chalice.
I will tell you that Shauna Foster is behind the chalice, and she has opted to remain behind the chalice.
Well, I'm new to Seattle as of 1 year, and I've never lived in the Pacific Northwest. So I was born in Egypt, raised in New Jersey, and have lived in North Dakota, New Hampshire, Maine, and South America. So I'm new to here.
Well, aren't you fancy? Well.
North Dakota, wow.
I know. That was the one that caught my attention, too.
I've been a lot of places, but just rarely. Never been through North Dakota.
It's the one state in the lower 48 I've never been to.
Really?
Yeah.
I went through it on a train.
Yeah. I loved it. It was definitely culture shock. Oh yeah. Well, my first reaction getting there was I'd never been around so many white people, but not just white, Aryan. So I called then my boyfriend and I said, "This is what the world would look like if Germany had won." I mean, it was super Aryan, as far as the eye can see. And they're the sweetest people in the world. I mean, I felt very welcome, and they were excellent. So I had a great year there. I was there for a year.
And what were you doing there?
I was a VISTA, volunteer in service to America.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what part of North Dakota were you in?
Jamestown, directly between Fargo and Bismarck. So it wasn't even one of the big cities.
Okay. All right.
So you're in Seattle now, right? So
Yep.
I'm curious because I have friends in Seattle who talk, and they have a phrase for it, and I can't remember, but it's this kind of stereotype about Seattle that everyone is really polite, but like it's really hard to make friends there.
Yeah.
Are you finding this?
It's called the Seattle Freeze, and it is real.
It has a name.
Is it the hockey team?
Yeah, it should be, and it's interesting because I have encountered it, but I'm pretty in your face, so I've kind of made friends with those who haven't been afraid of me, and there have definitely been a couple of people who don't think my loud, in your face attitude is charming, and then there are those who do. So I kind of just found my circle, and usually it's people from somewhere else, from New York, or yeah. The thing that's been most startling here is this whole passive-aggressive thing in the Northwest. And I don't know if it's just Seattle or the entire Northwest, because I just do aggressive. I mean, I'm a Jersey Arab, so the passive part is just over my head.
Just don't come to Minnesota.
Oh, I was saying I lived in North Dakota. I've been to Minnesota.
I tell you, they have passive-aggressive down to an art form. And even though I'm not from the East, people say about me, "Oh, she's from the East," because of the way I behave.
Because you're very direct.
Yes, and that is not a compliment, may I just say. That is not a compliment.
Oh, no.
Well, welcome back, Meg. We were talking about those of us who have changed locations and, are in a new place than we were a year ago.
I'm happy to be back in this new place. I don't know why I got booted out. If I go again, it's not because I don't love people. Computers are mysterious things some days. Sorry, Patrice.
Oh, no, that's okay. So 2 things. Aisha, I was actually born in Seattle, but left when I was 8. So I don't really remember the whole passive-aggressive thing. But I can say that when I went to Portland, Oregon to do my internship, I got off the plane and I had this very weird body feeling looking at the plants. It felt weird. It almost felt like coming home in a weird way. And I did not completely expect that. I did not expect that at all. But I saw plants that I remembered from from being a kid. So it was very strange. Anyway, I am actually now in a different Washington. I'm in Washington, D.C., serving All Souls Church for a year as a consulting minister. And it's another sort of homecoming because I used to live in D.C., or inside the Beltway, as we say. So I also lived in, Northern Virginia and Tacoma Park and whatnot. I'm currently actually in Maryland, staying with a friend who we've stayed in touch via Facebook, believe it or not, and that's about it. So we're sort of relearning about each other, which is very fun. And I'm, DC has changed. It's been 15 years since I lived here before, and it has changed. It is so fascinating. It's become, I don't know. I mean, for me, the feeling is like metropolitan. I mean, there's so many places that you can go now where you just, I remember it being as fairly segregated back then. And now it's just fabulous, incredible diversity, and just all kinds of people, all kinds of places. And I am just really, really enjoying that. I am currently not at the church, as you may be able to tell. They're undergoing a humongous reconstruction and renovation. Yesterday, though, I did get to go up in the bell tower, which was 105 steps, all the way up to see the Paul Revere bell, which was very cool, from 1822, I think it was, or 1882. And I also got to see, probably the most fascinating thing, though, is the clock. So they have a clock tower, and the clock tower is old-fashioned with all the gears, and you can see all the gears ticking away. And, the pendulum is going back and forth, and there's a rod going up to the 4 clocks, and they're all ticking away. And you're like, oh, my gosh, why do we need, computers? They managed to do all this great stuff with these, ancient-looking gears. So anyway, having a great time so far. And we're preparing for Homecoming Sunday, which is, you know what that is.
Yeah. I climbed up to the bell tower here in Milton yesterday too for the first time. And same sort of thing, the big brass, crazy stuff moving the big the clock outside. And later on today I'm going to learn how to wind the clock that's in the sanctuary. There's always that clock in the back of that only the minister can see. And if you go up to the clock, you can see it'll say like gift from the Jones family, and you realize like, oh, the Jones family thought the minister preached too long. So they purchased this enormous clock which no one but the minister can see. Right? So I'm going to I'm going to learn how to wind it, and then I'm going to set it like 10 minutes slow. So everyone's going to think like, oh no, it's not noon yet. I guess it's okay, So that's what I'm going to do.
But you're the only one who can see it.
I know. Well, but then people will look back and kind of go, oh, I guess not. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. That they'll look at their phones, Hank.
Yeah, that's true. I know.
Phones versus the wind-up clock.
Where do you wind it up?
There somewhere.
Do you have to get in the clock to wind it up, or where do you wind it?
I have to go up to the choir loft, and then it's actually behind the organist's seat. You have to sort of like sit in a seat and spin around, and then take some part of the wall away and wind it. It's a special old key, I guess.
Amazing. Now, my favorite story about the All Souls Bell Tower is that it was the official bell for the city of Washington, D.C., that rang for official occasions until they rang it when John Brown got executed. And at that point, their right to be the city's official bell was taken from them.
Wow.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's a lot of history in that church. And so many of them,
Yeah.
Amazing history. Huh. Well, I came in late, so is everyone just talking about whatever you feel like talking about?
Yeah, I mean,
We were
talking
talking
about
about people in
living
new
in
places. I
People in
would
new
like
places.
to say, Meg, that I met Lowell Unger. He's congregant here, and he invited me over to the Labor Day picnic at his co-housing place, and he just happened to say, by the way, where Meg used to live at
That's
some
right.
point.
That's
Meg
right.
is everywhere. That's what we should have. Where's
Yeah,
Meg?
yeah.
Like a Where's
Lowell-
Waldo book.
Lowell is Lynn Unger's brother, yeah. Who
Yep.
lives in that
Ah.
housing,
And he
yeah.
didn't realize that I worked with Lynn last year, and that his parents are very dear friends of ours. So it's like there's another Unger.
One
Yay!
degree of
Are they
separation.
named after the New England towns, Lowell and Lynn? Is that really? Am I hearing that right?
I doubt it. They're from
That's like
California.
really.
But that's weird.
That's
Well, and
really strange.
now that you mention it, their other
and
brother
They have
lives
another. They have
there.
another
Yeah.
brother, Lawrence, and
Lawrence,
Lister,
yeah.
I will say that
Another brother,
Arliss is a
Milton.
huge Arliss is a huge history really researcher. You know, she often gives a paper at the UU historic
And Arliss
convocation.
would be
Yeah,
Arliss
Arliss
would be
Unger. Yeah, so
Lynn's mother.
Lynn's mom. Yes, sorry, Lynn's mom, Lowell's mom, Art's wife. Yeah.
The Unger dynasty. There you go.
Yep.
So, Well, so gosh, Tom, you and I. Well, Aisha, you're not in a brand new place, right?
Well, I was saying that I was in Seattle a year, so I was in Columbia, South America before that.
I remember that. You had bad Wi-Fi there. So.
I did. It kept going off for like weeks at a time because they'd say, we'd call and they'd say, oh, we'll be there mañana, which could mean tomorrow or a week from Thursday. So
that sounds like Sudan. It was like, we'll be there tomorrow, inshallah.
Inshallah, right? Inshallah.
It sounds like the guy I'm trying to get to fix my electricity here right now in Minnesota, actually. Tomorrow, yeah.
بكرة
بكرة تكلمي عربي.
So it's back to school time for everybody. Some of us have kids and grandkids and young people that we love going back to school. All of us, I hope, are engaged in some form of new learning. I was thinking about how, they say like in the 5th grade you learn the state capitals, and they have all these things that kids in the 2nd grade you learn to write. And I remember Gia always had Gia's own goals, like I want to learn the monkey bars this year, and they usually were not academic goals. But so I thought, well, it'd be fun to share what our goals are for learning this year, as well as we got some major. Joanna, you sent a kid off to college this year, something I'm already grieving about next year.
I've got 4 kids in 4 schools, 1 in elementary, 1 in middle school, 1 in high school, and 1 in college. And it was, I was doing fine with the one going off to college. I mean, it's kind of like, for those of you who have been pregnant, it's kind of like that last month of pregnancy. You're so miserable. You're nature does that to make you eager to go into labor. And I know that I can say that because I know that my son felt that way too. Both of us were like, okay, we're ready for the launch. And then the night before he left, it just kind of all hit me. And there was just this realization of how really fast it all went. I mean, I remember when they were babies, and I would get so annoyed with the old ladies who would tell me, hold on to every moment, it goes so fast. And I'd be like, are you kidding me? Time has slowed down to a crawl. But the thing about, the days are long and the years are short. I just couldn't believe that it had happened so fast.
So are you sad, or are you?
I'm not sad, because it was. He's having a great time. I mean, he's not that far away. He's back in Houston. He brag on him. Got a full ride scholarship to the Honors College at U of H, and he's loving what he's doing. He's already, he's a super achiever, so he's already, added all of his assignments and everything to his schedule. He's probably going to be done with all of his classwork by next week, but he's really enjoying it, and so there is that satisfaction. My parents always told me, your job as a parent is to teach your kids how to fly. And so he's flying now. And so there's a lot of satisfaction in that. And I have to say, modern technology, it is really cool to be able to text back and forth, do stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I've heard people say that being able to see their kid at college helps a lot, to Skype or to FaceTime or something like that. Oh, there was a cartoon going around Facebook, and it showed the first day of kindergarten, and the kid is holding on to its mom, and then it shows first day of college, and the mom is holding on to the kid, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I thought was, my kids are older now, and out of college, was you just have to, train your mind to go to how happy they are as opposed to your own feelings about it. They're so happy to go, and they're so excited to get into those things. And, all the time we're always trying to pull them back. I mean, their whole childhood, we always love who they used to be. We're always going, you're growing up too fast, all of those things. And they hate that. I mean, they hate that. They love who they're going to become, and we hate who they're going to become, and we love who they used to be. So we're always at odds. So you have to kind of try to look at it from their point of view.
I remember when Gia turned 3, and I thought, oh my God, this isn't going to change. As I watched Gia's back walking away from me, I thought, this is what they're wired to do. I knew it intellectually, but my body got it when Gia turned 3. I was like, uh-oh, you think of having a baby that you hold. Well, that's for a minute, and then the rest of the time you're chasing someone around.
But they're way out of your body.
Your big purpose as their parent is to teach them to leave you. I mean, that's really it, right? So it's a little easier right now because I still have 3 at home. I'm a long way, or it feels like I'm a long way away from an empty nest. But I will say, and for those of you with a 9-year-old, I'm sorry to give you this reality check. Having that realization with my youngest, who's 9, that the length of the time it took her from being a baby to get to now, which was just like that, in that same length of time, she's going off to college. That was like.
So you guys just gave me a different perspective. I don't have kids. But I recently got a blessing from, I think he's 1.5 years old, 15 months. I was at my home church right before I left. I just preached that day, and I was starting to walk down, one of the church sidewalks within the campus, and about 50 yards away was a dad with his 4-year-old and his 15-year-old son, who he just happened to put down just as I hit the other end of the sidewalk. And he kind of looked down the sidewalk and spotted me, put his hands out, and kind of gurgled his way down the sidewalk, little quick baby steps. And as soon as I saw him coming, I crouched down. I thought, is he going to make it all the way here? And he made it all the way down. He put his little arms around my neck, put his head on my shoulder, and we stood that way for about 10 or 15 seconds, just embracing.
And then you realized your wallet was gone.
What's that?
And then you realized your wallet was gone about a half hour later. Damn.
He kind of gurgled, and I walked him back to his dad, and his dad said, "Have you ever met Isaac before?" And he said, "No, I have not. I've never met him before." And Andy looked at me and he said, "He's never done that before." And I said, it was a blessing. It was really a blessing. It's something I'm going to hold on to for a long time. Yeah. And what you guys have just done is given me the perspective of Andy, watching his little son running away to some complete stranger.
Help me! Help me!
Oh goodness!
Yeah,
So
that is it.
Well, but besides dropping off my our girls who are 7 and 9 at elementary school yesterday, last week I had the son of an old friend from college started at Harvard, And so they live out in Pittsburgh. So I was like, oh, I'll play like local dad, and go and help them move in and stuff, which is always fun because you always get all the other parents like come up and try to talk to you, and you're like, no, like don't, I'm hired help, no need for you to. But it was also, but his mom was there, and she was like, oh my gosh, now look, there are all these programs for parents that go on that start at noon, and I won't be able to stay. I've got to, she and her younger daughter had to drive back to Pittsburgh, and she was all upset. And I said, don't worry, I learned this when I was the chaplain at Tufts, and of course my wife works at Tufts. But that in the last 5 years, universities have had to create programs for parents on move-in day because the whole helicopter parent thing would prevent these the parents, the kids trying to meet their roommates, but the parents are getting in between. They're asking questions, so the universities have created these things to get them away from the kids, and then also ask them for money. That's the other thing too. Is that the
it might not be the best time to ask parents for money, like right when their kid is starting these really expensive schools.
Yeah, well,
wouldn't work
they're very good at it. Yeah, they're very, well, me neither. But my wife's in the biz. So.
Your wife is good. I wouldn't want her coming after me. I'm not going to tell.
Put her name. Give Meg the name.
I have to say,
the name of Meg Riley. Meg's already afraid of her, so that means
she's got my name. She's on my board. Believe me, you want her on your side.
I have to say, I am so not a helicopter parent. I mean, I'm ready for my kid to be independent. In fact, I'm mean mom because he texted me and he said, hey, can I, Dad has my debit card so he can take out any money. Can I use your Amazon Prime account? And I said, nope, sent him the link and said, sign yourself up for an account. Here's how you do it. Good luck with that.
Wow.
I know. I felt bad because it was Gia's first day of high school, and, my last year as a live-in, hopefully with the, I knocked on the table for not wood, and my dog went crazy. Lydia, that was me, dear. Anyway, so I had a breakfast date, and I didn't think about it being Gia's first day of school. There was somebody here from out of town, and I was like, I'll make you breakfast, I'll get you coffee, and I'll be gone an hour before you have to leave, sorry. Gia was like, thanks, Mom, So, but, I think the independence is good, too. That's what I tell myself.
Slacker moms unite.
Slacker moms. Good enough moms. Good enough moms, yeah. Exactly.
Believe me,
Oh, God. So, Aisha, how about you? Kids.
Yeah, my son gave me strict instructions not to walk him to the bus stop this year because last year for his first day, my husband and I walked him there and told him how much we loved him. We were the only parents out there, and he was completely mortified, and I don't think I had had that much fun in a very long time. But this year, a week.
He is a senior. He is a senior.
He's in 8th grade. He's in 8th grade, and I made the mistake. For those of you who are Facebook friends of mine, we were school shopping, and he picked up a shirt, and he's like, "This is okay," and I said, "Yeah, it's cute." He immediately put it back and went, "Oh," and I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Mom, I don't want to look cute," and that was the end of that. So I couldn't even comment on anything he was buying, or else it was over. I'm like, what's the right word? Cool? What am I supposed to say?
Scary, fierce, horrible.
Handsome.
No, don't get that.
Oh, yeah, that's true. No, not that.
Oh, my goodness. And my daughter, who's she goes to an all-girls Catholic school, which is hilarious because clearly we're not Catholic. And I went to her back-to-school night, and I kept texting her questions like, your teacher says you need this. I mean, talk about not helicopter parents. She's like, Mom, I have it under control. You don't need to worry about anything. I'm like, okay. Okay.
Well, the kids learn how to manage us pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Don't we all learn how to manage our bosses? Come on. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
My daughter used to bring home papers that I needed to sign, and I would say, put them on the kitchen table, I'll sign them. And she says, no. She says, you sign them now. And then as I'm signing the paper, she goes, notice I still have my hand on the paper.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, that's
You
my
will lose
daughter.
this paper if I let you have it. And I need to take it back tomorrow.
Totally. Oh my God, my daughter's exactly the same way. She's like, I said, well, just give it to me. She's like, no, do it now. She'll do exactly the same thing, Tom, as your daughter. Does not trust me.
I think we've all developed very high-functioning children.
Yes, of course. They have to be.
They have to be, exactly.
Exactly. I mean, my wife and I were never home very much, so they were on their own. We were both working, and doing a lot of stuff, and they were on their own a lot. So, they have to take care of themselves. They know how to take care of themselves.
It's a good thing. Jill loves it now when I leave town. I mean, I'm like, do you want to stay with friends? Are you kidding? You work from home. You're always here. Get out. Go.
That's so funny.
Dear. Well,
I need my peace.
Exactly. As long as the dog's here, it's all good. So what about us? What are you guys planning to learn about this year? What's exciting? I mean, for people with new jobs, it's kind of obvious that you've got a lot to just learn about who goes with who and, all of it, names and all that. But I'm just curious, like if people set their own learning goals now as adults.
About every fifth person I learn, I have to say, looking right into their eyes, I say, I'm so glad to meet you, which I am, and I'm so sorry if I forget your name. There's so many of you, just one of me. It's a big church. And that is by far the biggest challenge is, trying to just put names to faces. But what I always fall back on is that the energy of meeting new people and even re-meeting new people is always just fabulous. And I just, hope that that love and care makes up for not being able to, recall someone's name. So that's also why we have name badges.
Meg, let me also just say, Meg, right now, like, I haven't even thought about, doing inter-ministry, there are certain goals that come with a position. Never mind just sort of like keeping church going, but like there are these, the 5 tasks of inter-ministry stuff.
Tell us a little of this. Okay.
No, I don't want history.
They don't tell us.
Systems, yeah.
He could tell you, but then he'd have to kill you.
But it goes in the church's permanent records. No.
I meant in general. I didn't mean specifically about the church you're at. I just meant people are kind of interested about intra-ministry sometimes.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But right now, to be honest, all I'm focused on right now is, like, what am I going to wear on Sunday? Like, that's all I'm, should I wear...
That sounds so Hank.
Should I wear my morning suit,
you need to cut your hair?
Exactly. I was thinking, do I need to go? I'm going to the tailor's today, go get my hair cut, all that stuff. No, it's totally.
So you're in the back to school mode like the kids are with their new clothes and.
Yeah, no. Oh yeah.
Did you get new clothes? Did you get new clothes for this?
No, but I've got a new tailor who's making all my old clothes look really good. So.
You've got Peace Bang right there in town to do a fashion.
Oh yeah. No, well, I mean, no, I'm fine fashion wise. Like, Vicky and I, she realizes that like I don't need any help, But
does she? Okay.
Yeah. She realized that I don't need any help.
So how many of you wear robes, or how many of you like to wear robes?
Yeah.
I used to wear a robe all the time, but I don't out here in Michigan. Nobody wears robes out here in Michigan. So that's one of the things I'm in learning mode on too. Is that, and actually that's like a big thing. This year is the congregation in Ann Arbor. It's their 150th. Anniversary of their founding, and so they're having a big celebration all year about it. And I realized that my whole take on UU history came through the New England piece in Worcester, and which was robes and liberal Christianity and all those kinds of things. And the church out here is like was probably in the 1890s became very specifically humanist. It became a humanist church.
1890s.
Part of that Western humanism, and I realized that that's something I don't know about, and that I need to learn about. That's out in New England, you kind of go, well, those are those other folks. Well, now I'm living with those other folks, and and so why is it that people don't wear? Why is it that ministers don't wear robes? And there's history about all of that kind of stuff. So that's important.
When I
learning for me
moved
this year.
from, I had lived in West Virginia growing up in Ohio and then here in Minnesota. When I went to New England, it was like a different religion to me. I mean, the idea that you would find a church by going to the town center and looking around for the biggest building was so far from anything I had ever known, where you'd go to the outskirts of town, maybe into the mountains a little bit, you know, and like hope that you saw a sign. I mean, I just couldn't even believe it. And these old buildings with the, you know, really high, you know, where you're up there, you have to climb up the steps to get, I mean, it just was like nothing I'd ever seen. And it really was a different religion. I mean,
the bell actually being rung, right?
Mm-hmm.
On Sunday. Also, church bell is rung. I mean, it's,
yeah. Anyway, it's really interesting how much people kind of bond with a congregation somewhere and think, oh, this is Unitarian Universalism, and then, you know, out west, the churches feel totally different than they do here or out east. I mean, it's, you know, you don't go to a church without a Buddhist bell out west. Just a singing bowl. I mean, most of the churches now have those in the Midwest too. I don't know about out east, but yeah, it's just very interesting.
We've melted them into crosses.
This year, next year, you're going to melt the crosses into bowls. It's a great, you know, ever-changing recycling thing.
Aisha, what about you? What are you focused on these days? What are you learning about?
Well, I'm trying to. It's interesting because one of the things I'm trying to learn, it's not so much that I'm impatient. I think I come across as impatient because someone here called me rapid. I tend to do things fast. So I'm trying to learn how to communicate and have people hear me, which is not an easy thing to do. And it speaks to our desire to be, being Unitarian Universalism, to be multicultural. And yet, you know, I still find myself having to speak a certain way or else I'm not heard. And it is exhausting, and I also feel like, but if I don't do it, then it won't get done. I mean, what needs to be communicated won't be. So one of my learnings is, how do I, you know, not stay stuck in being stubborn and feel like the world needs to hear me no matter what I am, and yet bring the message across. So maybe patience, I don't know if that's the right word, but something like that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, to those of us on the East Coast, sure. You know, I think that's just going out west, especially to the Pacific Northwest, that you just kind of come on and people are like, whoa!
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
So that's part of it too.
It's very hard.
Yeah, it's complicated. So is this like a spiritual practice, or are you working with some structured how to talk so children will listen and listen so children will talk kind of thing?
I mean, this is, so we're working with a consultant who's not a UU, and she's actually worked with multinationals. We being the leadership team at the congregation I serve, and she's amazing. She's originally from India, and she's been teaching me and trying. So yes, it's a spiritual practice, and it's also a professional practice. Because part of my problem/challenge is I tend to be a change agent just by virtue of I'm the kid who's like, yeah, the emperor's not wearing any clothes. So policy governance. Anyway, so, you know, I feel like, Meg's laughing at me. And it's not an easy role to be in when you're the only one, or I feel like I'm the only one, and that's not necessarily true, but it is a spiritual practice and it's a professional practice if I'm going to remain as a UU faith leader. And as a religious educator, it's a whole nother host of issues.
Well, maybe the interim role that Hank's in. I mean, I also walk around. John Weston said this to me years ago. He said, you know, Meg, you're a change agent. That's just who you are when you walk around. And he said most churches would rather do anything but change. He was actually advising me not to go into a traditional parish, is what he was doing. He said, you know, the only one that would really like you very much would be one that was really committed to change. And right now I know one of them probably in the movement, you know, that year that was in search. And I thought about that a lot because I like to think I'm really patient. But I think it is good to find, I mean, CLF is great for me because, like this year, we're changing the total way that we do worship. And I'm not going to go into details because I haven't even shared it yet with our members. But we'll be working towards that in October. I have a huge learning curve to climb. And I think it's going to be better for everybody, or I wouldn't be doing it. And it's like we didn't have to have a million committee meetings to do it. We had to have a million meetings to try platforms, for God's sake. But once we figured out what would work, there was just a clear path. And that's rare, because in a bricks and mortar church there are many more people involved in creating the worship. So of course a lot more people have that ownership. So I feel with you about that change agent thing. It's I think there's a real place for that kind of leadership in our movement, but it's not always comfortable.
Yeah, I just read something about that, and I posted it on Facebook that I thought was, I just thought it was a Dan Hotchkiss thing, right? So really spot on. And it said, in general, the first sign of success in planning is that people get less happy. Because, what he talks about is the fact that, like if you're going to build onto your church, well, what's going to happen? Dust, noise, disruption. Your happiness is going to go down, and we have to train ourselves to see that and to say, good, that's how it's supposed to be, that's normal and expected, we're on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Then we got to get other people to think that too. That's the tricky part.
I have to, talk to the leaders and kind of. I mean, I think there's so many different things that are like that where something negative will happen and it's actually a signal of something good. And this is because my lifetime learning is as a student of systems. And that'll be one of, along with learning how to be a solo parish minister and learn this new church that I'm at, that's one of my continued learnings. 2 years ago, my ordination present to myself was I hired an expert in Bowen systems theory, and I meet with him every couple of weeks. And it's both learning it on a personal level and then also being able to look at things like churches or families. But being able to look at certain things that happen and say, okay, this feels really uncomfortable and there's a lot of anxiety, and that's actually good because that's what is expected, and then the next thing that is going to come out of this is going to be something good. But we have to go through this discomfort first. Being a parent, we know all about that, right? If you have a kid who can say, I hate you, you probably should pat yourself on the back, because so many of the children who are raised in really abusive or dysfunctional homes can't do that because of the inherent insecurity in the situation.
That's a very good point, yeah.
Okay, I'm still trying to figure out if I should wear a bow tie.
Milton? I would say
so.
Yes.
No, you'll look like that guy on Crossfire.
No, it'd be, a white bow tie. No,
a white bow tie.
A white bow tie with a white shirt. As a minister.
Oh.
No. I mean, actually, this is. I mean, I as you said that, Joanna, I was like, oh, I want to know more about the, this Boeing airplane system that you have set up, because that sounds really cool. I don't quite know how that works, but it must be fast. But I'm trying to figure out right now. Like I mentioned this a little earlier. Like the speakers to our sound system are in my office because someone said, well, they weren't working, and the last minister didn't really get a chance to get them fixed. And it's like, well, they did. I don't think that healed over the summer. It's sitting in my office, so they're here. I got to figure that out. I think we have to get things like. I mean, for those of you starting in new churches or starting in any church, like I've got things like the pew info, like on the back of the information packet in each pew, like, hi, this is our minister. Like all that needs to get changed. Every pew. For those of you who have pews, Patrice and I know what we're talking about. A card, because in Joanna's they just have big bales of hay they sit on out there.
What are you talking about?
And we know that Aisha has chairs.
Right, yeah. It's whatever chairs they have at Starbucks, they have out there in Seattle.
Don't they have hammocks there in your country?
They have hammocks, right. And we're also putting into the pews little cards that say I pledge online, and so that when the plate comes by, people can put that in. Since I mean, it was one of these things that I learned last year that people who are 35 and younger don't own checkbooks.
Right.
And so you have to go like, oh my gosh, so people can see that there, and yeah.
So they have something to put in the plate.
And somebody put in the plate. I mean, if they want to put in cash, that's fine too. But
Now some of the evangelical churches have machines that you can come and swipe your card. Yeah.
And I was just looking
Android
at
phone with the square on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at Vanco, and apparently they also offer a text option where, during the service you can simply text in your...
I bet they charge a lot for that.
Vanco's pretty good.
I don't know why they wouldn't.
That's...
Most of those text money things. Anyway, they're expensive. But, hey.
Well, somebody asked the minister, do you have a singles group? And he says, yeah, they meet in the collection plate.
So bad.
Kaboom.
So bad. But I'll be using it on Sunday.
I know. I mean, there's no such thing as a bad stewardship joke,
And I actually, I like that idea, Hank.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you're gonna talk about money, so that's good.
Actually, I was gonna talk about learning. Homecoming Sunday is coming up, and so. One of the things that that's in my portfolio is looking at welcoming and membership. And, you were talking, Hank, about changing all the little cards in the back. So that's one of the things that we've done, just revamped, and all of that's got to be, all those have to be in the in the backs of the pews. One of the things that we're trying is, rather than seeing folks that come in our doors who are newcomers, is thinking of them as guests rather than visitors. So, and we're actually reflecting that in the actually on the what used to be called the visitor card. So we're not calling it a guest card, because actually, when you think about people as guests, I think about people differently. It's like, no, you're not visiting. You're guests. We want you to stay, and hopefully find a home here. So that's one of the things that I'll be really being able to delve into this year, is really seeing about what it means to be, a welcoming church. And, All Souls is diverse, and they want to be even more diverse.
I'll be real interested. I'll be real interested to hear what you discover. I read something recently, and it was just, sometimes you read something and you're like, yeah, duh, of course, why didn't I think of that? And it said that whenever a new person comes to your church for the first time, their number one concern is not, am I going to like this church? Is the church going to like me? Theology. Their number one concern is, I don't want to be embarrassed.
That makes total sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so often what we do is we try and embarrass them, or we're not clear about what they should do. This was the other thing that I read that we're putting into practice right now, is that the most dangerous time to lose guests, when perhaps they don't want to leave, is the first 3 minutes after the service. Because whereas we have greeters before the service, right? Except that, and that's good, but the thing is, people actually know what they're supposed to do. Go in, sit down in a pew. But after the service, people have no idea, and they feel stupid and awkward. And the only thing worse than feeling stupid and awkward is feeling that everyone is looking at you and going, wow, that person is really stupid and awkward. And so they walk out our front doors. And a lot of times they don't want to walk out, but they don't really know what else to do. So at our church, we call it the rule of 3, and it's for the first 3 minutes after the service, before you greet any friends or committee members or anything like that. Go and visit with a guest, hopefully get them to the fellowship area, help them to some coffee. I mean, if they want to leave, don't throw yourself in front of them.
It's like somebody trying to leave.
The doors are hard.
There'll be a viral video of somebody trying to get out the door while people walking.
Don't let them leave. Seal the door. No, if they want to leave, let them leave. But for the ones who really don't want to, then help them. So.
That's
just
really
giving
good.
explicit
that.
instructions about where the coffee hour is.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Well,
Especially if it's not like
Sunday,
someplace that they can see from the sanctuary, you know. It's like you
But it's a
go
long,
through these doors, right?
It's a long walk to coffee hour, you know, and especially I think for.
Even if it's a short walk, Meg, right, for new folks.
I mean, it is a long walk. I mean, mentally, it's a very long walk to go from a structured situation to an unstructured situation. And, you know, I visit a lot of churches, and I feel awkward. I mean, usually if I've spoken, people come and talk to me for a while, and then a lot of times I just disappear because I don't know what to do. Because, you know, who really wants to go stand around hoping someone will talk to you? It brings back junior high dances or something.
Yes.
So, you know?
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
So I think having like a movie or something, I don't know, something really structured, like, that would help me, you know, just like, we're going to have a contest. I don't know, something fun, you know, something.
A tour of a lot of places we'll do like a brief tour of our church, you know, but it gathers all the new folks. We'll meet in front of the pulpit, you know. If you want to get a cup of coffee and come back, we'll meet here and get up, you know, and just do a quick little tour of
to the bell tower.
Coffee in the sanctuary?
No, just invite them, but then don't tell them it's against the rules.
There's only big signs, no food or drink in the sanctuary. You know, somebody would bring that up. Sorry, so I just thought I would.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, that's really a great idea. I've been trying to think of how to gather exactly for that reason, Meg, how to just gather new folks in the hall, because the hall is just so, I mean, it's a joyous place. If you know how to navigate it, it's fabulous. And if you don't, it's just absolutely petrifying.
I always thought you could do an application of some kind of speed dating in the coffee hour.
Go on, Tom.
Go on. We want to hear this.
Well, you set up a structure where maybe you take two concentric circles, one facing inside and one facing out, you know, in and out, right? And so you're facing somebody, and there's a leader, and you say, okay, you're facing somebody, so for the next 2 minutes, you know, introduce yourself to them. And then everybody move, you know, a couple of steps in the opposite direction, so you're facing up to another person. And then you go, everybody talk about what you're going to do this afternoon, you know, and everybody gets to meet.
And then people close their eyes and fall backwards, and they're hopefully caught by the person.
Trust falls would be probably on the second week, but you know, you do this so that they get, you know, they meet 5 people in a structured environment, and everybody wears their name tag, and then, you know, and the people who want to do it, and the people who don't want to do it, don't do it, you know.
I like the spirit in which this is offered, because I do think that we need to be creative about,
When I ran the youth conference in 1985 at Star Island.
Geezer time here. Go ahead.
We realized that there were you know, new folks coming to the conference every year, but who felt left out because they didn't know the traditions of the island. They didn't know the traditions of the conference. They didn't know who people were, and so we set up like a thing where, like, okay, if this is your first, you know, time at the conference, meet over here, and we're gonna spend, you know, part of the afternoon going around. But you also get everyone then. They're interacting with these other new folks. They're maybe making friends. They're making contacts, so that they're not just sort of immediately sort of thrown into like the mess of the conference, and where people are kind of going like, well, we've been here for, you know, 6 generations coming to this, and you know, and so then, you know, and you end up hanging out with, you know, the weirdo kids, or the, you know, strange, you know, brother-in-laws, or, you know, half siblings that you know, came along.
The first time I ever went to Star Island, I went to the orientation, and it was like a comedy show. It wasn't supposed to be. It was like a paranoids orientation. So they'd show you a slide of what looked really beautiful, and then they'd say, "This is poison ivy," and then they'd show you like a picture of a bird flying, and they'd say, "Carry a stick, or that bird will bite your head." They went through. They'd show candlelight, and they'd show, "This place burned down." I mean, I just started laughing. Like, I just lost it, because everything that looked beautiful, we were told, like, how we could kill ourselves or others with it. Now, it was community building in a certain kind of way.
Yeah, Survivor.
So So, we could maybe make our churches seem a little more danger-filled,
Yeah, there we go.
Well, we definitely can do that here. Walk down these steps and you will fall into a deep, dark hole, never to be seen again, and probably concreted over in a couple of weeks.
So, Patrice, is the sanctuary there getting redone, or is it the rest of the building, or everything?
No, sanctuary is not being redone, but
Okay.
the rest of the building, you would not believe the extent. An elevator has been put in.
Oh, wow. That's big there.
Wow. See the original foundation, and it's,
Wow.
5 feet of solid concrete that they've had to hack through. It's just amazing.
Oh, that's very cool. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, if you're in D.C. in the next couple months.
I'm never in D.C. I used to live in D.C., and then I was there every month, and now it's been years since I was in D.C.
Well, there'll be a march soon.
Well,
be
yeah,
going to something.
There's always something.
Right.
So,
How did you were going to the September 25th thing in New York? Who's going there?
Yeah, who's going to People's March? I wish I could go. I think it's going to be
deafening silence. Okay, I guess we're not the Vanguard.
Yeah, we got to get some Vanguard people to come and visit us and talk about these events. It's very far from Minnesota. I mean, to go to New York,
I'm not going, but
I'm getting all involved here with the police brutality stuff. There is a really interesting thing here that this is what I'm getting involved with. So all police officers get like a minimal insurance. But if they have lawsuits against them for brutality that they lose, we have officers who are still on the force who have had multiple lawsuits against them. Minneapolis has spent $20 million in the last 5 years paying people who were brutalized. So if people lost those lawsuits, they'd have to buy their own insurance, like malpractice insurance, like doctors and lawyers buy. So at some point, they couldn't afford to be cops anymore. So the union wouldn't have to protect them. They just plain couldn't afford to do it. Now, I think this is very creative. It saved the city money. It would get some of the worst offenders out of there. And, the people who weren't losing multiple lawsuits would still have insurance. So this is what I'm working on. I'm all for local action. I did the national stuff a long time, and I think to make change, I think all levels are needed. But my days of going to D.C. for big events, I think they're pretty over. I don't know. It just feels like we got to dig in. We got to really make some deep, deep changes that aren't going to happen from going and listen to speakers on the mall. Which is not to say that people are called to do it shouldn't do it, but so.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point you bring up, Meg, because I've actually in the last couple of days have been thinking about that, international, national and local actions, and I really actually yesterday some of the staff went and did a silent retreat with some other folks, but at a retreat center not far from here. And this is actually one of the things that I really contemplate on. It's really sitting on my heart is finding that balance and realizing, and I think where I am right now is the big events are really great, and I definitely want them to continue, and I will show up for some of them because I think it gives folks the power of knowing that they're not alone, and we need to be also going back and taking that energy of being filled up and knowing that we're one in a link, a chain, and that we each need to be a link locally, right, to that whole connection. So
yeah,
it's so easy to get overwhelmed, really.
It is, and I think anything that we do matters. Tom, you're involved with you're really called to Selma and to do the voting rights national level visibility. I think visibility can be really important with major events.
Hey Tom, we're doing All Souls is in relationship with a couple of VUU churches in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they are looking for. We're really involved with phone banking. Been calling folks down there to get them to register, and are going to be going down there a couple of times in the next couple of months to really focusing on early voting, because that's apparently a lot of people of color in North Carolina actually do early voting. So we're really focusing on that. and then we're planning to go to Selma, so in 2015. So maybe you and I ought to talk offline about what we might do.
I won't do phone banking. I have a phobia about calling people on the telephone. That's always held me back. But I'll do almost anything else.
All right.
But
good to know.
phone banking is one of those things. The thing about just the national and local thing, Meg, is that this movement that's shaping up about police practice with people of color is turning into a national movement that actually has every. I mean, no matter what your zip code, there's a local aspect to this issue. No matter what your zip code, maybe not in every zip code in North Dakota, but
no, believe me, the small towns.
But everywhere there's this issue, and it's you can fight it. You can be involved with it in a local level, and you can be involved with it at a national level. The Dream Defenders have put forward some national demands about this, but also kind of local initiatives to kind of change the incentives on things are coming up too. I think this thing in Minneapolis is really interesting. So that's going to shape up as that is going to shape up as being everywhere for a while now. It's like the first. It's like the what they call the second Reconstruction in the South, where once you started looking at segregated facilities, there was everybody had one around the corner. Right? Everyone had one around the corner. You didn't have to go to someplace else to do it. If you could get 5 people together, you could start looking at local targets.
Yeah, I think it's time. I mean, I think Michelle Alexander laid a lot of groundwork for the whole national, everybody to start looking at their own local communities. But I think a lot of the work needs to be done locally, and is being done in really inspiring ways. We are coming to the end of another hour here, and we are delighted that those of you who have come to go back to school with us have come. Let's do last words from people. I'll just say, Hank, I'm sure you'll look great on Sunday. Post a picture. I'd like to see it.
Of course, yeah, and I hope you get all those cards and all that other stuff. And break a leg, everybody, for your homecoming/rally Sunday.
Yeah, I'm still back thinking. I know no white shoes after Labor Day, but white bow ties. I think we're going to have to go to the judges for this one.
Well, it's only in relationship to a morning coat, right, Hank?
Yes, right.
Which no one west of 495 would wear. Okay, they used to wear them in Worcester, but they gave that up. Milton, they probably still wear.
They've got their own beltway there on Boston, right?
Yeah, 495 is the.
I'll just second Hank's. Everyone have a great homecoming/rally/first day of school/ whatever's coming up for you in the next week.
Get thee to a nunnery.
Yeah, have fun, everybody, with Back to Church. We do a big salmon bake here because salmon is huge. Yeah, and they grill a lot of salmon, and of course there's veggie options, and it's a lot of fun. So no, we don't do water communion.
We do water.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
We do water communion, and then outside we have a full labyrinth, and they have water and bubble day for the children and youth and any adults who want to do it. Kind of a, end of summer sort of thing, even though granted it's going to be in the 90s for the next 12 months. I was telling Tom, it just feels, at this point we've given up any hope.
Come and visit, Joanna, come and visit. Take care all. Thanks, Shauna, behind the chalice. See you all next week. Bye-bye.